Let's try this again. Good morning, everybody. It's strong coffee out there. I know you got something going on. So good morning. Good morning. All right. So I'm Mike Wilkening. I'm Special Advisor to Governor Newsom on Innovation and Digital Services, and appreciate having the time with you all this morning. Route 50's put together a great agenda, which you have in front of you with some amazing speakers, many of them my colleagues. So I think you're going to have a very engaging and thought-provoking day today. I'll tell you, this is truly an exciting and pivotal time in California, and I'm quite happy to be in the role that I am right now. In my prior roles, both as Secretary and Undersecretary of the California Health and Human Services Agency, we invested in many changes that culminated in the creation of an innovation office at California Health and Human Services. And some of those efforts included establishing the first agency-level open data portal for California, the shift to agile and modular with the re-procurement of the child welfare system. We established a data use agreement across the 12 health and human services departments. Sounds rather boring, but fundamental to being able to actually do anything about customer focused. We linked data to start getting a client view of our programs. And we started using data to inform decision-making and to provide insights into what was happening, both with our clients and inside of our programs. But that was all just part of a larger shift to focus on end users and to change the culture of the California Health and Human Services Agency. So now I'm in this role, and so how did I end up here? Well, part of the appeal for me in coming into this role was the governor. So Governor Newsom, both as a businessman and a former mayor, understands the need to be customer focused, to be friendly, and to be innovative. That approach applies to government as well. And yes, government both can and should be innovative, customer friendly, and customer focused. And it is possible. So here I am with the new job. And my charge is to push the culture change and to change the way that we operate. So the first most tangible effort was the establishment of the Office of Digital Innovation. So that was included in the budget. There's funding for 50 positions and $10 million in an innovation fund. And we are actively searching for the right director. And I emphasize the right part. I'm not just looking for a director, I'm looking for the right director for this office. And the office is not being set up with any particular projects in mind. And it's also not going to be about single successes. It's part of an overall goal to recast the relationship of government with Californians. It's to shift our focus from programs and departments to people, to make it easier and more intuitive to interact with government, easier to find information, more intuitive processes for applying for benefits, and easier to use those benefits once you have them. It's a huge lift. Culture change, as you all know, is difficult, and it doesn't happen overnight. And it's not something that government can do by itself. We're going to need to build and strengthen the partnerships that we have. And that's why as I look out into the audience and I see many people that I already know and look forward to working with those who I haven't yet met. But I'm so happy to be here today with a room full of engaged and talented partners. So my message to you is that I do believe that changing the culture of government is both a necessary and a worthy challenge. And I hope that you'll join us in tackling that challenge. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you this morning, and I'm happy to take questions in the remaining of the time period that I have. Please use the microphones though, because as loud as you can scream, they still aren't going to pick you up on mic for the people that are online. So, and I know the coffee's kicking in, so come up with the questions. I find it's a better way to do this than to have me talk to you for 20 minutes.
Good morning. There's been some recent news media coverage about the changes at DMV. Can you talk a little bit about how you're going to approach that probably monumental task, and how your efforts might be different from approaches in the past?
So the governor talked about that when he announced the appointment of the new DMV director, as well as the strike force, the report that came to the governor on approaches to change the DMV. So part of it was leadership change. Part of it was coming in with people with outside perspectives, as well as some state staff, and just relooking at what's going on there. The governor's message was clear that he's going to underpromise and overdeliver on this, and that it's an incremental approach. We aren't going to get in there and just say, throw everything out and start over. That these changes take time and they take effort, and you have to be realistic about what you can do in set periods of time. So there's quite a bit of money that's been invested. I think the budget included about $240 million for the DMV for staffing up. And those of you that tried to do anything with the DMV yesterday morning know that it was shut down, so that everybody could receive training on Real ID and other issues around the DMV. So it's a concentrated effort to really improve that organization, which really is, for most of us, the real interaction that we have with government. There aren't that many places that a lot of us interact with government. You do it with the DMV, you do it with taxing entities, and you do it relative to registering to vote or when things go wrong. In my former role as the Secretary of Health and Human Services, I dealt more with people who have constant interactions with government. And so, it's a very different experience that people have with governments, and different approaches that you have to have in trying to figure out how to make those better. Yeah.
At a previous Route 50 event in San Francisco, we learned about a startup in residence program from City Innovate. I was talking to a startup just the other day, and they told me that they had approached an executive agency a few years ago in Sacramento, and were specifically told, we don't want to work with startups. So I'm wondering, where you stand on startup involvement, and how might the state, take advantage of the innovations that startups in Silicon Valley provide?
That's certainly not the approach that this administration has. We're open to good ideas from everywhere. We're open to different partnerships. And so that's definitely not the message that you're going to hear from this administration when people come in. We're open to minimally the dialogue, but we need active partnerships. And as I said, changing the culture of government, changing the way that we operate, reconceptualizing how services are provided. We need external partners to do that. And so we welcome those sorts of interactions.
Going back to DMV, is the core problem of DMV the personnel or the infrastructure itself?
I'm sorry?
I said, is the core problems of DMV, or the most important problem of DMV, is it the personnel or the infrastructure itself?
Yeah, I was not part of the strike force for DMV, so I'm not going to get too deep into DMV.
I'm very glad to be here. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
And I'm hoping that you and your group will look into the CalVet situation, where we have over 3,000 veterans and 8 veterans' homes here without electronic health records. I salute the state for bringing electronic health records to our prisons, but please help us. Thank you.
Yeah, I recognize that problem. It's a problem at the Department of State hospitals as well. Yep.
Good morning.
All right.
I'm particularly interested in what you foresee as future efforts with public assistance programs, and where you see that going in the next short-term and long-term years.
So in the short run, we're in the process of going down to a single system with CalSAWS. So we were originally at 4 systems. We moved to 3. We're moving to 2. We'll get to 1. And so that's going to provide some opportunities, I think, for consolidating approaches, for thinking, for actually having better technology to really, both for the caseworkers and for the people who are receiving services. Ultimately, I think we need to figure out ways to make it easier to apply for benefits. And anyone who's gone through that process, it's truly maddening. And some of that's the way that the programs have been set up. So the definitions don't match across programs. And so income in one program doesn't match up with income in another program. And so trying to explain to somebody who's applying for benefits that no, your aunt's income counts in this one, but it didn't count in that one. So we can't just ask you for your income once, is maddening. But there are common fields, and so we should be able to streamline some of that process and make it a little bit less onerous of an experience. And then I think once you have the benefits, being able to utilize those benefits and understand what they are, we can go a long way there. It wasn't too long ago that you weren't able to figure out, just go online and find ATMs that were surcharge free. And that's just one example of something that technology can do and that can really make a difference in people's lives, because if you're getting assistance, a surcharge at an ATM makes a big difference in how much money you have available for you on a monthly basis. So I think there are lots of those sorts of relatively easy wins that we should be focused on and moving forward.
So if you don't already have a shortlist for the right director, what characteristics are you looking for?
So we put out an announcement. We received about 85 applicants, and we also have been doing targeted outreach. I started shortcutting the answer to this question by saying I want someone with scars. And so what that means is that I don't want somebody that understands the theory of digital service. I want somebody who's actually done digital service. And if you've done digital service, you have scars, because it's not easy. It's not easy getting into a governmental organization and changing the way that it does business. It's not easy trying to figure out how to approach that. It's not easy dealing with the cultures of government. It's not easy going in there and convincing people that you're there to help. And so that's when I shortcut with scars, that's what I want, is somebody who has struggled through that, figured it out, and have managed to continue to engage and to make progress. I want somebody that's going to be a team builder. I don't need somebody that's just going to come in and start breaking things for the sake of breaking things. And there are times when you have to do that, but generally your approach should be coming in and partnering with people and understanding their problems, and then helping them find other solutions that they may not have thought of on their own. So I'm looking for somebody that's mission driven. Somebody who really cares about the operation of government and really wants to see it improved for the benefit of people.
Hey,
Yeah.
hey, Mike.
Hey.
Can you talk a little bit more about culture change and what you mean by that?
So part of it's what we were just talking about there. It's really, it's focusing on the interaction between people and their government. It's focusing on the way that state employees do their jobs. So using data to better understand what's going on in their programs, better understand what's going on with clients and their lives. It's really just reconceptualizing the relationship between Californians and their government and state employees and government, but not just for the purpose of reconceptualizing, but really to better improve the delivery of services for people so that it's more efficient, more effective, and that people feel more connected to their government.
Good morning. Do you foresee any changes or bringing innovation to the IT procurement process in trying to get some of the startups or the smaller companies in with great innovative ideas, but they can't get through the IT procurement process?
So we took the first step in that with the re-procurement of the child welfare system, where we set up the pre-qualified pool where vendors had to actually put together something that was useful, rather than just telling us how they could do things, really actually do something to get onto the pre-qualified vendor list. And then in order to be able to bid on the modules within child welfare, they had to be on that list. It's part of what I like about modular approaches is that, you know, if I'm putting out an RFP for a $500 million system, there aren't that many vendors in the world that can bid on that particular thing. You know, it's generally a conglomeration of a few large companies that do this. And it's, you know, both from the staff resource, so having enough people that you can do that sort of a procurement, to the financial risk associated with it. It's just really not possible for smaller vendors to get into that large project pool. But if you do modules and you break it down into something that's tens of millions of dollars, we've found that actually there are vendors that come in. And it's not just about the staffing and the financial risk. Honestly, a lot of those innovative vendors don't want to work with us if we aren't willing to change the way that we work. And I completely appreciate that. And so it's up to us to take that first step of saying we really do want to change, we want to do things differently, we're open to innovation, we're open to doing things that we are not in the mold that we've done in the past. And I think the vendor community is responding to that.
Good morning. So continuing on the topic of the innovation, do you envision a larger collaboration between government, private sector, academia? Any comments on that?
Absolutely. No, we're actively working with folks now. I expect that we're going to continue to both get advice and then also partner actively with the private sector in addressing the issues of government.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi. The Office of Digital Innovation, can you speak to the approach on how it's going to engage with and impact departments and agencies? Is it going to be more of a passive model where departments and agencies can leverage the office if they wish? Or is it going to be more of an active model where the office is going to be dictating or mandating some things to the departments and agencies?
It's in all likelihood going to be a hybrid. And so I don't quite like the characterization of the first approach, but it's going to lean more in that direction. And the reason I don't like it is that what I expect is that there's no shortage of issues out there in departments where they need assistance. And so I do expect that a lot of the projects are going to come in from the departments and the agencies looking for assistance, looking for ways to do things differently. I don't think that it's going to be really passive. There's going to be active involvement both from the office and the governor's office to encourage departments to come up with those ideas. When I was at Health and Human Services, that's one of the things that I did with folks is I both encouraged them to come up with ideas, but then I also was pushing back out to them what the office was doing so that they could then think about that and think about, oh, well, that approach would work really well for this problem that I have. So getting them to really understand what it is that the office is doing and how it can be of benefit. So it's a very active role that you have to have if you're going to be successful using that first approach. And that's why I said I don't like the characterization of passive. If you're passive about it, it'll fail. You have to be very active, but you have to be partnering with people and working on the problems that they have. Having said that, there's also probably going to be an aspect to it that's more the intervention model, where we see something that we think needs to be fixed, and so we'll put a team in to figure that out. I much prefer the first approach because it has more buy-in from the people that you're working with, but I'm not adverse to the second. looks like this will be the last question.
Hey, Michael. Last question.
Yep.
So presumably, the premise is that post the cultural change that you describe, it'll be a whole lot easier to provide digital services. Aside from competent delivery of digital services, what can the people in this room do to assist you in the culture change?
Come up with ideas. Actively reach out to us with your ideas about how government can change the things that you see where you don't think that we're being very effective, the approaches that you know of that you think will be useful. I'm not looking to make government into the private sector, but I do think that the government can learn a lot from the private sector. And so they're fundamentally different organizations, but I think that there are a lot of lessons we can learn and a lot of approaches. And honestly, it's the same people, right? The people that are interacting with the private sector are also interacting with government, and the expectations are changing as the private sector continues to evolve, and government honestly has been way behind and continues on a daily basis to fall further behind. So we need to actively jump in and start changing the way that we do things, and part of that's looking for great ideas. I'm a big fan of going out and finding things that are working already and plagiarizing, because I don't need to be original in this. I don't need to have ownership of it. I just want to find things that work, and I don't want to make the same mistakes that others have made. I'd rather learn from them and make my own mistakes. So thank you. Thank you all for your time this morning, and have a wonderful time here. Thanks.